Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Wednesday, and all of our guests today, including John Shannon from 100% Hockey, the podcast, brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions and ableauctions.ca. Canada versus the USA Four Nations final tomorrow in Boston. Here to talk about it is John Shannon, again, from 100% Hockey. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, boys. How are you?
Very good. John, I want to read you because you go back like I do and like Rick does somewhat. I want to read you
Before the internet.
Yes. Well, yeah. Before the teletype. And
how did we exist before the internet?
I don't know.
Come on.
Before cell phones.
I don't know. Hey, I've lived in both times. I like the other times better.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's just me. Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. How did we live without inboxes before? This is unsigned. Canada needs Bobby Clark to go to Boston and break an ankle.
Yeah.
Remember that back in 72?
Valerie Harlamov.
Yeah, I know.
He broke his ankle. Yeah. You know, it was a different time and a different place. Mind you, that somebody, one of my American friends, sent me the video of Mario's goal in 1987 and called Dale Hawerchuk's water skiing up the ice one of the greatest non-called hooks of all time. Too.
Yes.
So we have apparently our opponents feel that we have benefited from poor officiating.
Yeah, people don't talk a lot about that. I remember Larry Murphy was the other passing option for Wayne Gretzky. Yeah. He went with nothing against Larry Murphy, but I think he made the right call with the pass to Mario.
You think?
What do you make of the ratings, John? Very strong on both sides of the border.
Well, I think we talked about it last week. What did we expect opening night? We said 2 million. They got 2.1 million. I think that made a ton of sense. Everything else fell into place. 1 million people the next night for the Americans against the Finns. And then it was just a perfect storm. The NFL is done. Major League Baseball hasn't started yet. NBA's in its all-star break. So quite frankly, for a lot of people, there wasn't much competitive sports on television. And it really opened up the opportunity. A great number in Canada when you think about 4.5 million Canadians. And then that Saturday night, remember, it wasn't just on cable TV in the United States. It was over the air. You had a chance to watch it in Vancouver, on Cairo, and from Seattle. So there was a real positive about this, that there was an opportunity to make a difference for a viewing public that was dying for some quality sports. And they got that right out of the hop 9 seconds in.
But, John, how do you build on it? I still remember 94 and Sports Illustrated saying the NHL is hot, the NBA is not. They didn't build on it because they had the lockout right after that. So how do you build on this? I'm watching American politicians tweeting about the hockey game Saturday, like guys and gals with 1.2 million followers. So it spread like wildfire over the weekend in the USA, that game. But how do you build on it and keep that momentum?
Well, let's remember, after Salt Lake in 2002, we thought, yes, we've had it. Yeah. We finally have our breakthrough game. Weren't allowed to use any of the footage. Yeah, we didn't own the footage. The IOC owned the footage. 2010, Sid's golden goal, not able to use the footage. The National Hockey League and the Players Association now own all of this footage, and I suspect that we are going to be inundated with four-nation face-off promos, international hockey promos, just like we've seen on both sides of the border, the promo that they're using to promote these guys are playing in the Olympics next year in Italy. So it's finally on a platform that we can actually use the content more. And I think that's an important part. There's no exclusions. You guys were around in 2010. If you weren't a rights holder, you weren't even allowed to set up in the arena. So that's a positive now. We do have a positive situation. And now it's incumbent on the league and the Players Association and the teams, who, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, a lot of team media people are at the event creating content for their own platforms. Yeah. I think they are taking better advantage of it, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, the Canucks, they had a ton of stuff about Lankin and, and Pettersson and Tocchet as well. They did a good job there. What are you making of this Quinn Hughes situation? The Americans are trying to sneak him in. They're trying. There's people are fighting back, but they are thinking of a million ways to get that kid to Boston and in the lineup, John, tomorrow night.
I don't know if they're trying to sneak him in. I think there's too many people watching to sneak him in.
Well, sneak him in on the roster.
Listen, the rules are the rules.
Yes.
And we can call it the Thomas Harley rule,
Yep.
and we probably call it the Thomas Harley rule for the next 10 years. And this is not Bill Daley and Gary Bettman, being arbitrators about this. This is also the Players Association who helped construct the rules. That they said 23 players. And there wasn't going to be 25 players like we're going to see next year at the Olympics. So everybody has to live by the same rules. Now, if Quinn Hughes ends up playing, I don't think it should deter anybody from enjoying the game. And I don't think as a Canadian you mind watching Quinn Hughes play for the Americans, because if we're going to win, we want to be able to say we beat the best and Quinn Hughes is the best.
John, if I can get back to the point about, and we talk about this a lot on our show, the point about highlights. And when it comes to the Olympics, has Gary Bettman and company, has the National Hockey League talked with the IOC or come to some sort of agreement where they can use the best moments from an Olympic men's hockey tournament to promote the National Hockey League? Because the National Hockey League is doing a pretty good job of promoting the Olympics.
I don't have the official answer, but I would be shocked if that was the case. Mm-hmm. The IOC is pretty set in its ways about how things happen. Is there a possibility? I think anything's on the table. But remember, the reason 2026 with NHL players is going to happen is that was a negotiated segment of the collective bargaining agreement during COVID. That they would do their best to put the players in the Olympics again. Yeah. The NHL is going to close down because the players want to play in the Olympics. And so I don't think that at this point, I don't see any difference in how the IOC handles footage, because if you do it for hockey, you're going to have to do it for bobsleigh, you're going to have to do it for volleyball, you're going to have to do it for table tennis. And I just don't see them changing their ways, even though we think, because we're a little myopic about how great hockey is, that hockey is that important to the Olympics. The IOC will never admit that. They love the money, but they'll never admit it.
How well does Jordan Binnington play tomorrow, and what happens?
Well, I find it hard to believe that we're going to see much different game than we saw Saturday. Not from the perspective of how it started, but I thought the Americans did just a marvelous job of protecting Connor Hellebuck and protecting the middle of the ice. I don't see them changing. So by the way, I think Canada did a pretty good job in its own zone as well. Shots on goal weren't great. I think it was 25-25. So from that perspective, we're going to see a defense-first struggle. So the challenge becomes is whose team's speed will be able to take advantage of it. We as Canadians did not do a very good job Saturday with our team speed. We wanted to go a lot more east-west, left to right than we wanted to go north-south or straight forward. So if you can convince Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon to go straight forward and move that way, I think that Canada has a pretty good chance. Yeah. I would not be surprised to see the exact same score at the end of regulation, which means in my mind, when I'm not counting the empty net goal, I would not be surprised to see a 2-1 game. I would also not be surprised to see a game go to overtime, which, by the way, will not end with a shootout. Keep NHL going. It's NHL rules, Stanley Cup playoff rules for the final game for overtime.
I don't know if I can handle an overtime in that game. I might not be here Monday or Thursday or Friday rather.
Well, can you imagine some of those guys, if the game goes to overtime, some of them are playing Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Or the NHL begins Saturday afternoon one more time. So that'll be, it's going to be, listen, this is a gift from the gods. This whole thing. we all were skeptical. We all didn't understand it. We didn't know what this thing was supposed to be. And here we are 9 days later saying this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. It has been fantastic.
Yep. Okay, so I might not be here Friday or Monday, but I will be here for your hit next week, John. Yeah. Okay? I promise you that.
Cheers, boys. Well, as long as the internet's still working. And how did you do research? How did you research? What you did is you picked up the phone and you talked to guys. It's amazing.
That's it. Or you lied a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Hey, listen, I remember the days we used to be able to go and we'd phone right into dressing rooms and talk to coaches after game.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I remember guys who get traded, you'd phone them at their home. Can we come over and get a comment? No problem.
Yep.
That doesn't happen now. All right.
Different world.
Anyway,
no
John,
boys that ever.
enjoy it tomorrow. We'll talk to you next week.
Cheers, boys.
You bet.